Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. As you noticed, we couldn't go anywhere without bagpipes, giving a steel into our heart and putting some steel into our spine, some courage that we all deserve, as you're also courageous to be out here with me, and recall that there are better days ahead. I know we have suffered. I know we have been beaten. I know we have been kept down. However, there are better days ahead. And I'm here to give the good news, the news that need to cheer your heart, and to recall that as citizens, we are not subject to any other authority except our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our Declaration of Independence. So, without further ado, I will simply speak on a short speech out of my prepared remarks. Don't be scared. I shall not follow the letter. I shall just go through and help you to understand that we are here together, and the facts with which I shall deal this afternoon are mainly old and familiar. Yet there is something new and innovative in the general use of the facts. And this is what joins us together, because although there is novelty to the idea that none of us is any longer considered a slave or a subject to a king, to any tyrannical authority or any other institution, as citizens we ought to recall that we are subjects to the Declaration of Independence. I make a clear distinction between the Declaration and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, because whereas the one is not a legal document, and I speak of the Declaration of Independence, it is actually the most important document that allowed us to become who we are. Citizens as opposed to subjects. It's a monumental difference. I am proud to call myself the American Churchill, only why I am a citizen and not subject to any queen, or worse. So, as I see all of you understanding the important difference, we ought together to invest in a further understanding for the reason why we live here, and if need be, we die here to defend those ancient rights. And those rights are to enjoy liberty and the pursuit of happiness. As I hear you, you have asked me many times before to represent you, and I heed your call. Yet, every time when we are together, we have been attacked and viciously maligned by our enemies of freedom. So shall we come together again this time and rise up, as we need to protect each other, to protect our rights, and to defend the Republic for which many others before us have shed their blood. The reason for me standing in front of you is to wake up this ancient feeling, the feeling that made people seek liberty at the cost of death. As you know, famous people before us, they went to battle with a flag that said, "Give me liberty or give me death," and they meant it. We do not need to make such important sacrifice today. The only thing is enough to cast your vote, and cast your vote for a person that you think will represent this ancient principle, nothing less. And how do you distinguish between the people who are worthy of your vote or not? Is by simple conversation, in a civilized discourse, with love and kindness that will allow you to recognize those who want to keep us united versus ones who want to divide you so they can rule above you. It has been said by great ancient peoples that those who do not expose themselves to the electioneering, to the democratic elections, and to the vagaries of public office, they are led by people far inferior to themselves. So should we not be led by inferior people who have no track, no belief, and certainly no hesitation to take away your liberties, you ought to expose yourselves to the politics by involving yourselves in the school board, in any other elected position that will elevate you to the point of a leader within our communities. And this is why I was called here to speak, because I am unafraid to include myself in the voting rolls and to stand up and accept your vote at times when you ask me to represent you. It just so happens that in my family, in my blood, in my DNA, we have a little bit of that political thing running. You might have heard. It's some kind of a virus that cannot be defeated by inoculation against it. We are called to serve, and service is what we give. But they only calls us to come, you know, when the things are difficult, and oftentimes when things are unsufferable. And then they say, okay, let's draft a Churchill now to see if he can take the chestnuts out of the fire, because the fire is too hot. And we take it, you know, often foolishly, often with candor, and sometimes even with the necessity speaking upon us that if we don't do it, nobody else wants that awful job. And it is a bitter pill sometimes. You probably know, my grandfather, they tried to assassinate him 61 times. Not all of them from effing Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. There were some local crazy yahoos from England, they tried to kill him too. We have to be aware that there is a cost to public service, especially when you do something good, and you earn the enmity of those powerful people and the sinister folks who seek to dominate you and to deprive you of your basic liberties. Now, thank God we are not facing, you know, the hordes of Adolf Hitler wanting to drive us into 1,000 years of misery, darkness and depression. But I think we were driven just, if I recall, until today into a depression lasting 365 days. And maybe a bit more, a bit less. And I think now we are coming out of it and shaking our head and saying, what was that all about? Because, as you all know, it seems that we've been punked. I think my good Scottish friends here, they will tell you you've been punked. And it's time to wake up. That's why, you know, with the benefit of the bagpipes that are so giving a heart to all of us, we can say that no more. We've woken up. Springtime is upon us. And let this be not the Ides of March, where awful things happen, but let it be the springtime, you know, into which you all rise up. I hear this is a common expression here, rise up, like the old folks. They've risen, and they had a revolution by declaring their independence from Mother England, and all good things came to all of us. But we should not forget the tradition. And what England had given us, it was the basic natural rights as understood in the philosophy of yore. Whether it was John Locke or whether it was any other person who actually spoke within the ancient Parliament of London, the Westminster, the Hall of the Commons. That's been the most vibrant democracy for the last 1,000 years. And yet, a democracy that is still curtailed by the power of a sovereign king or queen. And on this side of the water, on this side of the pond, we decided to be free of that and unfettered and become the kind of people that are led by a government of the people, by the people, and from the people. A government that shall not perish from this earth as long as you can keep it. And why would you not want to keep such a government here, alive and blossoming, since it's the best system of self-governance the world has ever known, and look at what beautiful people it has produced. Just look around you and say thank you to the person standing next to you, because I extend my thanks, and I say a fist bump and maybe a hug if you are not afraid, and tell them that solidly standing together is all we expect from each other. Nothing more is required. Just stand with me as I stand with you, and together we are going to carry this sunny day into the future, because without that we've got nothing. The separation that is being dictated upon us the division, the hate against each other, the looming civil war that's being advertised in all means and all places where the easily susceptible fall prey to, is exactly the evil that we need to observe against. Some great people, they said, you know, I know not who causes tears to my country, but I know how to repair the fabric of my nation. And I think I'm one of those old school folks who aren't afraid to say, I know how to repair the fabric of our nation, torn as it may be. This is what we all ought to do, this is what we need to engage in doing, and more or less this is what we are required of doing now and forever. Possibly, this inside. So, as I am speaking to you, impromptu, no notes taken away, I have to say that I am proud to be amongst you. I am proud to be one of you, and above all else, I'm the American Churchill, and that means a lot. My grandfather, all his life, he was a subject to a king and queen. In his long life in Parliament, more than 50 years, he was a great force. He delivered liberty for the whole Western world. I think the fact that we do not speak German today in this very country is due to my grandfather's, Winston Churchill's, courage. Courage, and courage alone was what helped him achieve this liberty. When everything was lost, when everything seemed improbably dark, and in the midst of the most difficult time the free nations of the world have faced, he stood up as one man alone for the first 2 years of the war, and then, enjoying the friendship of the government of these United States, FDR and the people, and enjoying the friendship also of Stalin, Marshal Stalin on the other side, and enjoying the friendship of all the free nations who had signed up as allies, the ANZAC forces, Australia, New Zealand, the Commonwealth of India and other 68 nations. We should not forget that none of us is alone in this great struggle against darkness. We always have allies that we might not be able to identify, but we are able to rely upon. I admit I don't know half your names. The people I have met, there are few and varied in between in this vast crowd. But I do know that the ones whom I do not know, they respect me as I respect them. And they are going to reach out to me as I reach out to you today and say, E pluribus unum. This is my only shield of protection. I'm not wearing a bulletproof vest, although I have been assassinated twice. Well, small beginnings until I get to 61 times like my grandfather. I've got ways to go. But I'm here because I feel your protection is far greater than mine. Anything you have to offer me is accepted. So I thrive being amongst you. And I know that victory will grace all of our efforts and all of our endeavors, because this enterprise of mine is not new. This enterprise of mine has started a long time ago, back in the 1700s, when people rose up and they said, I declare my independence. And that was the most powerful thing that the world had ever heard, because there is nothing so powerful as an idea whose time has come. And declaring our independence today from fear is what we ought to do. Should we be asked upon the world? Should we ask to be of service? And should we be asked to serve? I believe our time has come. No more division. Kindness, love, and the enthusiasm of unity is what will allow us to succeed and keep our republic, as many generations before us they have. Because people ask me, how come you expect this country that has fallen so low to be resurrected again and thrive? I say, well, give me a moment to think. It sounds like a very difficult question now, huh? Listen to me. If I have been able to resurrect myself from the last assassination attempt against me that left me broken in the head requiring brain surgery because I dared to give a speech like this inside the Microsoft headquarters in INT just a month after the 45th president was elected. A person who is supported with 7.5 million votes of independence, because you had seen the corruption. We've seen what they did to our friend Bernie Sanders, who had won the primaries of the Democratic Party, and then they just kicked him off to the curb. Shame. So we took out the other guy, you know, and he seemed to be at least honorable to do the one thing we agreed upon. No more foreign wars. We have enough things to do in our country to fix it up. We don't want to take our people, you know, in the freaking deserts, you know, highlands, Afghanistan, or Syria, or Iraq, where the people have been killing each other for millennia without rancor, without principle, and ultimately without any particular cause. They're just loco in the head, you know, they can't stand each other. And let's learn from that, because that's what they're trying to do to us, to get us into a division that you cannot stand each other. You can't be in the same elevator, you know, with another person, let alone if the person is from the other party. And both parties are complicit in this evil work. Both of them. It's not one. It's both of them. It takes two to tango. They are the same faces of the same coin on the either side. Because that's how they can control the true citizens and deprive you of the rights that you have been feasted upon through the natural rights, through the godly free will, and certainly through the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. Yes. I know I'm not telling you anything new that you don't know, especially with my funny accent. You know, you probably want me to speak in French to you. And I use French, you know, but only for romantic purposes and for diplomacy across the world, but not here. I can do a pretty mean Texas accent if you want me to, just like John Wayne, you know. Put them up, Dukes, you know, and let's go fight. Fight is what we need to do, but not in the sense of John Wayne in the movies. We don't want to have a bar brawl, but we're going to have a very educated, scientific effort at winning elections across the board. It does not matter the size of the office you seek, but it matters that you earn the right of citizen, which is ultimately to be responsible for the affairs of our country. And I want to be responsible to you, first of all, because you are fellow citizens, but most importantly, to the old creed, E pluribus unum. Out of many, we become one. And why did the founders, you know, these 39 men who signed on the Declaration of Independence, you know, unafraid of hanging? Because at that time, you know, anybody who signed that document was an enemy to the prevailing power. And yet they did. And they went on to fight. And before long, they had earned their independence. This is again what I'm fighting for, because I happen to believe, unusual as it might seem to most of you, that the revolution has not stopped. The revolution has not died. The revolution is ongoing. And it is you, and me, and several other people, well beyond the pale of this particular moment, that they are unafraid to say, we must carry on the struggle. We cannot allow darkness to come over us for long. And the struggle that I'm engaged in is the political struggle of democracy, hoping to be amongst those who truly believe government by the people, government for the people, and government from the people shall never perish from this earth, at least if we can help it. So this is what I demand of you as well. Stand with me as I stand with you, because this particular old axiom of having the best form of governance in the world, which is democracy at the self-governing level, it is exactly what we seek to have if we are to survive as a nation. Because at the end of the day, regardless of divisions, regardless of these desperate attempts to cause us to harm each other, I do not believe for a moment that we are going to descend into a bloody civil war another time, having had the example of the last one, having remembered the bloodshed, the loss and the destruction that caused. And these are the people from the outside who caused the tears in the fabric of our country, and I aim to repair that with your help. You be the hands, you know, that hold the needle and the fabric, and you sew it together. And that's what we need to do. Almost like needlepoint, that's all it takes. And it's easy enough that all of us can do it without very much effort. And what you ask me, what do you speak of nation? You kind of look and sound almost foreign. Some people ask me, where have you been born? I have to tell them near the University of Washington, my alma mater, and they say, I don't believe. I say, okay, try me. Ha ha ha. Does any of you, think that this nation is made up of what? Of imported plastic tchotchkes at Walmart? What is this nation made of? Of houses and buildings and this nice grass? No. What is the nation? What is the idea of a nation? The very definition of a nation, in my mind, is this continuation of principle of our existence with the things that we hold sacred, from the people who are long gone to the people that are yet to be born. Your children, my children, and their children. This is what this nation is all about. This unbroken line of principled individuals willing to lay it all on the line for what we believe to be true, the Declaration of Independence. How could I be anything else but an independent? I've been courted by those both political parties whom I consider evildoers many, many times. Come with us. Come with us. Whether it's the left or the right, the red or the blue or whatever other color, because they always want to control this, telling you that you could never be elected unless you fly under their own flag. And this is the basis of corruption and division. But I have friends here who always will tell you that should you choose to be an independent, you will win, because last I heard, maybe just as late as yesterday, 75%, 3/4 of all the people here, they are so tired and they want to be independent forever. Because this document that I referenced, the Declaration of Independence, it was actually the founding document of our country. The Constitution came later in order to legalize the framework of what you consider the government. However, it was the Declaration of Independence that allowed people to rise up. And I connect the two. There would be no rise up, there would be no revolution without the Declaration of Independence. Signed up by 39 people who were unafraid to give up their lives for the very cause of independence. So, how could I be anything else but an independent? In our politics, in our belief, in our government structures, and most important, in our lives. Benjamin Franklin famously said that who wants political parties when I can live in the paradise of independence? Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, they all decried the rise of partisanship as to be the death knell of the Republic. You remember that? And does anybody remember Abraham Lincoln saying clearly, do not allow partisanship to destroy us? And he created a cabinet of rivals, people who came from different political parties, because he himself was an independent at the time. It was a new party he founded between the Whigs and the Southern Democrats, and by the grace of God, they split the main parties and they're succeeding in gaining the leadership and preserving our country through the difficult times of the Civil War. So I call upon you to do exactly what old Abe, my intellectual mentor, if you will, and call to your others, those others who are not in the same striped uniform as you might be, and invite them to a civilized discourse, to a dialogue, and giving them loving kindness, allow both of you to become independent. Because independence is a state of mind more than anything else. To be independent of fear is what I hope and I ask of all of you today. And once you take that baptism of fire, you will be a true independent for the rest of your life, for the rest of the generations to come, as this nation was founded upon. I call on you for independence of spirit, independence of your heart, and the independence of your belief, to rise up with me and with each other, and to say thank you and God bless you all, and keep in mind that together we can have a great country, and we can do well together in this country. However, if separated, if divided, if conquered, we would die as slaves. And that I shall not allow. God bless you all. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Churchill, and a lot of you want to convince me to run for the United States Senate on behalf of our particular state. Would you want me to? Tell me. Yes. Yes. You want me to run, present you as an independent? Will you stand with me? We go together. We go to the other Washington to just be there as independent witnesses and to effect change. Will you stand with me? Will you come with me? I promise you, all together we can fit in a big bus and we'll get there. Well, I hear you, and I say God bless you. I shall follow your advice, and I will have the piper, lead us on a goodbye and a solemn prayer. Thank you.
Churchill, run! Run! Churchill, run! Run! Churchill, run! Churchill, run!
God bless. Thank you.